Let's talk about a moment no one ever really prepares you for, the moment after intimacy. Not the build-up, not the seduction, not the tension-filled minutes before your lips meet or the heat between your bodies reaches its peak. I'm talking about what happens after, the quiet, the exhale, the moment when all the adrenaline fades and what's left is just you and him with nothing to hide behind. That space, those sacred, soft, and sometimes awkward moments, that is where the real truth shows up. And here's the wild thing. So many women think that the moment that matters most is the act itself. Was I sexy enough? Was it good enough? Did I turn him on enough? But the truth is, what a man feels after intimacy will define how he sees you, how he remembers the experience, and most importantly, how emotionally connected he actually feels to you. You see, any man can be turned on by physical chemistry, but what makes him want more than just a fling, what makes him crave you beyond the surface is how he feels in the aftermath. That's when the hormones settle and his heart checks in. Am I connected here, or am I already pulling away? And let me tell you something deeply honest. A man never forgets what a woman does in that moment, whether it's how she touches him, whether it's the first thing she says, whether it's the way she pulls him closer or pulls herself away. That moment after intimacy, it's like an emotional imprint. It tells him how safe you feel with him, how confident you are in yourself, and whether this was something real or just something convenient. And here's the truth. There are women who treat that moment like a transaction. Done, over, check it off. And there are women who turn that moment into alchemy, a space where he feels something he can't quite name, but he knows he wants again. So what are the things you can do in that moment that he'll never forget? What do high-value, emotionally intelligent women do that makes a man feel not just physically satisfied, but emotionally seen? That's what we're about to explore. Let me walk you through 5 things that leave a lasting imprint on a man's heart after intimacy and that make you stand out in a way that no move in the bedroom ever could. Because your power isn't just in how you love him in the moment, it's in how you hold that moment afterwards. Let's dive in. The way you hold him like it's safe to be soft. There's a moment after intimacy that most people overlook. It's that quiet space where nothing needs to be said, but everything is being felt. And it's in that exact moment, when the physical has faded into stillness, that your emotional power truly reveals itself. Men, though they don't always say it, carry a weight, a pressure to perform, to lead, to do it right, to impress, to protect. Even during intimacy, many men feel they must maintain that strong, dominant energy. They're holding it all together until after. And it's in the after that he unconsciously asks, is it okay to just be? Is it okay to stop performing, to relax, to be held, not as a man who must provide or prove, but simply as a human? And when you're the woman who answers that question with your arms, when you hold him in a way that says, you can breathe here, you can soften here, you don't have to be anything but mine, that's when he melts into you in a way that no technique in the world could ever match. Because that's not physical anymore, that's emotional safety. There's something wildly powerful in being the place where a man can exhale. When you run your fingers through his hair, pull him in close, or trace gentle circles on his skin, not needing anything more from him, just being present, that's when you make him feel wanted, not just desired. And here's the secret most people miss. Men remember the woman who made them feel whole, not the one who made them feel like a trophy, not the one who performed, the one who, in that tender space, didn't see them as a role to play, but as a person to hold. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It can be subtle. You don't have to say a word. You just have to be in that moment with him, eyes closed, body relaxed, letting him lie against your chest or curl into your arms, without judgment or expectation. You don't need to fix, entertain, or perform. You just need to be there, soft, safe, steady. And trust me, men don't get that from everyone. Most of the world tells them to toughen up, to stay guarded, to stay in control. But when he meets the one woman who offers something different, who invites him into her warmth without condition, that is a memory that never leaves. So when I say he'll never forget the way you hold him after intimacy, I mean it. Because in that moment, you're not just the woman who turned him on. You're the woman who saw the part of him, didn't show anyone else, and instead of shrinking away, you embraced it. That's not just unforgettable, that's irreplaceable. When you don't rush to fix the silence, there's something sacred that happens after intimacy, a quiet space, a lull, a stillness that fills the room. And for many people, that silence feels uncomfortable. Like something must be said, like someone needs to break the moment before it gets awkward. But here's the truth. Most never realize that silence isn't awkward. It's powerful. It's a space where two people are simply being. No roles, no expectations, no performance, just skin against skin, heartbeat to heartbeat, with nothing but breath and presence between you. And in that moment, the most unforgettable thing you can do is this. Nothing. You don't need to talk. You don't need to joke. You don't need to fill the silence with nervous chatter or commentary, because a woman who can sit in silence, especially after sex, sends a message far more profound than anything she could say out loud. I'm comfortable here. I'm comfortable with you, and more importantly, I'm comfortable with me. And to a man, that level of grounded confidence is magnetic. You see, most people are addicted to noise. The moment something gets quiet, they rush to fill it, to prove they're still interesting, still engaging, still desirable. But that need to perform is rooted in insecurity, in the fear that if we don't say something, we might lose their attention. But a high-value woman knows that her presence is enough, that she doesn't need to entertain a man to keep his interest. She knows that if a man is worth her energy, he'll value her stillness as much as her spark. And here's what makes this moment so emotionally powerful for a man. It's rare. It's rare for him to be with someone who doesn't try to fix, fill, or overcompensate. It's rare to lie next to someone who simply exists in the moment without needing to prove anything. In that silence, a man gets to feel. And sometimes that's the first time he truly checks in with himself and asks, what do I feel right now? About her, about this, about us. And if you allow that space to unfold naturally, you become part of that deeper reflection. You become tied to the emotional experience, not just the physical one. The silence becomes a container for connection. So when you lie next to him and say nothing, when you just breathe, when you meet his eyes, smile softly and say with your energy, I'm right here and I don't need to run from this. You become unforgettable, not because you dazzled him, but because you didn't need to. Because your power wasn't in what you said. It was in what you didn't say. It was in your comfort with intimacy beyond words. It was in your ability to let the moment speak for itself. And I promise you this, he will remember that silence. He'll remember how safe it felt. And he'll remember who gave him that feeling. When you say something real, not rehearsed, after intimacy, everything slows down. The rhythm changes, the rush dissolves, and you find yourself lying there, skin touching skin, hearts beating a little more slowly, the moment heavy with emotion. And in that fragile, wide open space, what you choose to say or not say can echo in his mind long after the lights go out. Here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. Men don't remember perfect lines. They remember real ones. They remember the woman who spoke from a place that was honest, not rehearsed, who didn't say something to impress or manipulate or control the vibe, but who simply let her truth rise to the surface and shared it. It could be something simple. God, I feel so safe with you. Or I wasn't expecting to feel this much, but I really like where this is going. Or even a playful whisper, you drive me crazy in the best way. It's not the content that makes it powerful. It's the fact that it's real. Unfiltered, rooted in the present moment, not in some strategy. Because here's the thing, in that post-intimacy space, men are incredibly attuned. They may not always show it, but they're absorbing everything, your energy, your words, your comfort with yourself. And when you speak from your heart instead of your ego, they feel that. You become more than just the woman they shared a bed with. You become the woman who shared herself emotionally, authentically, confidently. And that's rare. See, most people get nervous in that moment. They revert to surface level conversation. They joke, they deflect, they even downplay the connection because they're afraid of being too much. But the woman who isn't afraid of her own depth, who can look a man in the eye and say what she feels without needing it to be reciprocated is a woman who leaves a lasting imprint. Because vulnerability isn't weakness, it's boldness of the highest kind. When you give a man a piece of your truth in that intimate space, what you're really saying is, I trust myself enough to be seen right now. And that is unforgettable. He may not even have the words for it, but he'll feel it in his gut. He'll leave that room thinking, she's different. Not because you said the perfect thing, but because you said something true. That doesn't mean you need to pour your heart out. It just means you get to show a glimpse of your real self. A thought, a feeling, something playful, something deep. Whatever's true in the moment, say it softly, say it slowly, say it without a need for validation. Because the woman who isn't afraid to be real after sex is the woman a man doesn't just desire. She's the woman he remembers, not for what she did, but for who she was when everything was stripped back. And all that was left was her voice and her truth. When you touch him without wanting more, there's a subtle, deeply seductive kind of touch that doesn't get talked about enough. It's not about turning him on, leading him back into foreplay, or hinting at round two. It's the kind of touch that says, I'm here, I'm with you. I'm not trying to take anything from you. I just want to feel you. And men, especially the ones who are used to touch as a form of performance or expectation, never forget this kind of touch, ever. After intimacy, when everything is raw and real, most women underestimate just how sensitive men are to the energy behind their touch. You might think he's strong, in control, stoic even, but in that post-intimacy space, he's wide open, receptive. And touch in that moment becomes emotional communication. That's why when you gently run your fingers down his chest, or softly trace the line of his jaw, or simply place your hand on his back as he lays beside you, without it being about getting more or giving more, it registers differently. It tells him you're safe, you're wanted, not for what you can do, but just for who you are. And that changes everything. You see, so much of intimacy in our culture is goal-oriented. It's about the chase, the climax, the peak. And once that peak is reached, so many people just shut off emotionally. They roll away. They grab their phone, they get dressed. It's like, okay, mission complete. But when you stay, when you linger with him, when you touch him in a way that isn't about sex anymore, but about connection, that's when you stand out, because that kind of touch doesn't come from a need. It comes from emotional fullness. It says, I'm not touching you to get something back. I'm touching you because I feel something with you. And that lands deeper than you think. It lands in a place most men didn't even know they needed touched. Because here's what most won't admit. Even the most masculine, confident men crave nurturing. They crave affection that isn't transactional. They crave moments where they can drop their armor and just be held. But the world doesn't offer them much of that. So when you become the exception, the woman who after intimacy softly rests her hand on his skin without needing to excite or impress, you create a new kind of memory for him. You give him something so rare, touch without agenda. It might seem small to you, a simple graze of your fingers, a soft back rub, a quiet cuddle while his eyes are closed, but to him it will speak volumes. It will say, you're enough, just like this, and I'm still here. That kind of touch doesn't just linger on his skin, it lingers in his heart. Because when you don't need to take anything from him, when your touch is an offering, not a request, he feels it in a way that rewires his entire idea of connection. And that feeling, that's the one he chases long after the moment is over. When you let him see that you're at peace with yourself after intimacy, the most powerful thing you can bring into that room isn't a new move or a sexy phrase, it's your energy. Specifically the energy of a woman who is completely at peace with herself, not second guessing, not calculating, not wondering if she was good enough, hot enough, wild enough, just peaceful. Because here's the truth most people don't talk about. After intimacy, insecurity loves to sneak in. That quiet voice that says, was that enough? Did he enjoy it? Does he like me more now? What is he thinking? And without realizing it, we can begin shifting our energy into one of performance or even emotional grasping. We start searching his face for signs of approval. We start reading into his silence. We start losing ourselves in trying to manage his perception. But a woman who lies there with ease, who isn't trying to prove anything or chase reassurance, is a woman who radiates something rare and intoxicating, self-trust. And men feel that. They feel it in the way you breathe, in how you stretch out comfortably like you belong there, in how you look at him, not to check if he's satisfied, but as if you are. It tells them, I am enough, I know it, and I don't need you to validate it. And that right there is what sets you apart. Because most people show up to intimacy hoping the experience will give them confidence, that it will make them feel more wanted, more valued, more lovable. But when you enter and exit the experience already rooted in those things, already confident, already full, that's when intimacy becomes powerful. That's when it becomes a shared celebration, not a secret negotiation for self-worth. And here's the kicker. Men might not always know how to describe that energy, but they feel it in their bones. It relaxes them. It makes them feel safe, not just physically, but emotionally, because your inner peace gives them permission to stop performing too, to be real, to land in the moment with you, instead of floating in self-doubt. And the irony, that peace you radiate, that is what draws him in even more. It's what makes him crave your energy, not just your body, your energy, because it's rare, it's grounding, it's healing. You become more than just the person he was intimate with. You become the woman whose presence made him feel more at home in himself. So after intimacy, don't rush to fill the space. Don't scan for signs. Don't let your mind spiral into the what now trap. Breathe, smile, stretch, pull the blanket over your shoulders, rest your head on his chest without analyzing it, just be. Because when you are at peace with yourself, it changes the entire energy of the room. And in that stillness, he sees a woman who doesn't just look confident, but lives it. That's not just attractive, that's unforgettable. You see, intimacy isn't just about what happens between the sheets. It's about what happens after. It's in the stillness, the silence, the breath, the way two people exist together once the noise fades and everything becomes real. Men remember so much more than we think, not just the physical spark, but how they felt in your presence once the fire settled. They remember the way you held them, not as someone trying to keep their attention, but as someone who knew her worth whether he stayed or not. They remember when you didn't try to fix the silence, when you let it hold you both like a warm, sacred blanket. They remember that one unscripted thing you said that felt more real than any performance, the way your hands touched them, not to ask for more, but just to say, I see you, I'm still here. And they remember the calm, the peace, the quiet certainty of a woman who knows exactly who she is. That's the woman a man keeps thinking about long after the clothes are back on, long after the lights go out, long after the moment has passed. So here's my challenge to you. Be that woman. Not the one who tries to be unforgettable, but the one who is, because she shows up fully, calmly, softly, with depth, with confidence, with no need to prove a thing. Because when you become the woman who makes him feel seen, not just sexually, but emotionally, you rise above the noise. You shift from being an experience to being a memory he can't shake. So the next time you find yourself in that post-intimacy space, don't ask yourself what you need to do to keep him. Ask instead, how can I show up as the most grounded, present, powerful version of myself? That's where the magic lives. And when you live there consistently, you won't need to chase connection. You'll attract it effortlessly. Because true confidence is the quiet you leave behind long after the moment is over.